Alright, hi there. Going to be a log review based on your MMO champion post. So, I'm going to try to keep it quick, but I may ramble a bit. So sorry about that in advance. I just want to go over the armory really quick. Obviously, you only have the 2 set. Once you get the 4 set, it will help drastically. As far as a few other things, you obviously only have 1 legendary. You did get a really good one, so that's always good. As for the trinkets, I know in the logs I saw you're using different trinkets, which I'm not sure if those two are better. Obviously, mastery and verse are like weird stats for shaman right now, and they may or may not be better. The eye level could be enough just with the intellect and the extra stat from being higher eye level alone, but yeah. If you're not already simming yourself or using simulation craft, figure out like what's the best setup for gear. You can use like raid bots. You just Google that, it'll come up and figure out how to use it, or you can download SimCraft, whatever works. Both of those are pretty Googleable, easy to figure out. So yeah, I think these trinkets are better, but obviously you still want some better ones. The owl trinket off of Sisters is really good. Terror from Below is good. Like a few others here and there, but these are a decent starting point for sure. Stats are good though. High crit and high haste are definitely what you want for the future. You're 8 out of 9, which is good. Still have some time to work on stuff. As for the armory, I think that's about it. Other than, I'm not sure if this is correct, but it says you're using lightning rod. Obviously you want to run ascendance, so I'm not sure. I know in the logs you were, so that's not a big deal. So now we can jump into the logs. We can just go over Goroth. There's like a few issues that are like pretty big. Obviously your parse is not terrible. It's pretty good. And you're competitive with people of like the same eye level, which is always good. Or not the same eye level, of a higher eye level. As for a few things, if we just go click on you really quick. That's one thing. I think you should be using Mark of the Claw. I think you'll get more damage out of Mark of the Claw on the neck instead of Hidden Satyr. Again, that's something to sim for sure, but I'm almost like 99% certain that Claw is going to be better for you right now. As for other things, casts look pretty good. The one thing that I saw that's like a major issue, and I think would just give you more flat damage as a whole, is using Elemental Blast more. So Elemental Blast has a 12-second cooldown, which means you can get 5 casts a minute if you cast it on cooldown every time, like exactly perfectly ideal situation, but that's obviously never going to happen. But on top of that, this was a 4-minute fight and you cast it 12 times, so just off of a 4-minute fight you should get, in an ideal situation, 20 casts. Which obviously it's not going to be ideal because you got to move to spikes or whatever, and you're not going to be able to cast it every single time. But you should definitely have more than 12 casts. You should probably be in like the 15, 16, 17 range, to be honest. So just focus on casting Elemental Blast on cooldown. That's like huge to just get more casts, not only for the damage, but obviously the buff, especially if it overloads, is really, really strong. And on top of that, I want to address one thing here. You said try to follow the Icy Veins opener, Totem Mastery Fire Elemental, blah blah blah, whatever. So for your opener, you definitely want a Totem Mastery when the pull timer's out, probably around like 4 seconds. Just drop it, and then you want to pot and then start precasting Elemental Blast, which I think this guy referenced in this post, but yeah, you want to Elemental Blast, Flame Shock, Lava Burst twice, Flame Shock again, and then Ascendance. And then when you're in Ascendance, you want to obviously spam Lava Burst to cap, and then Earth Shock. And if Elemental Blast comes off cooldown during Ascendance, you definitely cast it. So that's like the main opener with Ascendance, and that's basically the Ascendance rotation, like anytime you use Ascendance. So there shouldn't be a Lightning Bolt in your opener. Oh, and sorry, you do want to cast Fire Elemental as soon as you cast like right after the elemental blast. So it should be totem mastery, and then pre-pot, elemental blast, fire elemental, flame shock, lava burst twice, flame shock, ascendance. So that should be it, like every single time you run ascendance. I hope that made sense. So yeah, that might be where you're missing a cast too. I'm not sure when your ascendance was. Yeah, you might have waited till the end. It looks like you did. You cast it at 4 seconds and you cast it again at 30. So definitely want to cast Elemental Blast during ascendance. Other than that, this fight looked fine. Flame Shock uptime is pretty good. A little bit of room for improvement. You really want to not let that fall off, especially once you get the 4 set. But yeah, all the other casts are fine. Stormkeeper, Ascendance was good, and Fire Elemental's good for not having 4 set. So that's basically Goroth. Again, that was fine. Just cast Elemental Blast more, and then go from there. I don't want to talk about this fight too much because it's really cheesy in terms of like where the tanks take the boss and how much torment you're getting based on people doing mechanics correctly. And so I wouldn't ever cast Earthquake on this fight, even if you're in the cage. I don't think it's worth it. So probably avoid doing that. Even if they're stacked up, like still don't do it in the main phase. I know you died this fight, which obviously kind of skews things, but it was a pretty good fight. I know that your uptime for Flame Shock on each boss was... You cast it... Oh wait, that's not even Flame Shock. One of them was 39%, and then Belak was, what, 75? So the biggest thing you can do in this fight to increase your damage is try to make sure that your Flame Shock is up on both bosses at all times. So it's like, if, let's say you cast it at the beginning of the fight, and then Belak goes into Fellsquall, it can still be ticking and it won't give you Maelstrom. So you're just getting more damage and as a result more procs. More Lava Surge procs from having that on both bosses, which is good for movement and also just gives you more damage because you get instant cast. So I'd recommend doing that, and it takes a little bit of getting used to know when to cast it and to make sure not to cast it into the Fellsquall or the like Bone Storm, Blade Storm thing. But yeah, having high uptime on both bosses is like really important for this fight. But again, it's kind of like cheesed based on where the tanks tank the bosses and if they bring them back together or whatnot. So I wouldn't worry about this fight too much, but Flame Shock on both is like really good. And then for the AoE fights, there's a little bit of a issue with your talents. So the AoE fights are Harjatan Mistress and Desolate Host for the most part. Like the hard AoE fights. And you're running Elemental Blast and Echo of the Elements. Lightning Rod is good. You should definitely run that. But instead of Echo of the Elements, you should run Liquid Magma. And then without the 4 set, I'm not sure if you should run Prime Elementalist instead of LA Blast. But it's something to consider. Maybe to like try it 1 week. Because once you get Prime Elementalist, your Fire Elemental can cast Fire Nova, and it just does more damage than Elemental Blast since you're AoEing a lot of the time on this fight and the other fights. You don't have as much time to cast Elemental Blast on one target, even though it gives you good stats. Prime Elementalist is most likely better, but definitely Liquid Magma. Just cast it on cooldown when the ads are up, and that'll do a lot more for you in terms of AoE damage than Echo. So that applies to Mistress and Desolate Host as well, and for Desolate Host it applies to both if you're Spirit or Corporeal. But other than that, like your parses were still good. I looked at them before, and you're doing fine. Just if you take those talents, you'll definitely do more damage. For this fight, your parse was really good. I think it was 79 if I'm not mistaken, yeah. So this fight's kind of hard because there's a lot of movement, especially if you're kind of quote unquote progressing on it, because there's some people down here with some low DPS, so the kill time's going to be slower, and you're going to have to be more careful about what you do with mechanics on this fight. But it's good. Again, the elemental blast thing, it's like a 5-minute fight, and you had 20 casts, which is better, but still room for improvement. And then the last thing, Fallen Avatar. This fight was really bad in terms of elemental blast casts. So it's an 8-minute fight, and you cast it 23 times. In a perfect world, you would cast it like 40 times. So on this fight, you should definitely be able to get above 30, if not like 34, 35, if you really watch it and make sure you cast it on cooldown every time. And obviously, like this fight, it's kind of weird because if the touches Sargeras, you have to soak it, and the maiden's really far away. You obviously can't cast, so you have to watch that. You should definitely be able to get more than 23 casts though. And other than that, I don't think you multi-dotted the maiden. You had 24% uptime. You could probably get higher than that, and it looks like you switched to it every time it did the cast, which is good. But anytime that the maiden is within range of you, you should try to flame shock it, just for extra damage and extra procs on Fallen Avatar, as it's a bit of a DPS race. Obviously, it's not as much anymore as it was, but yeah, just trying to multi-dot when you can just would give you more damage as a whole. And again, don't go out of your way to multi-dot. Like, don't run across the room to cast flame shot, because that could mess up a bunch of things. But just when you can, like if where you're standing in the room and the mating is near you in one of the lanes, just try to keep the uptime as high as possible. And then I just want to go over this one kill Jaden wipe. Obviously, it looks like you're pretty close to killing it. Just looking at a few things. So Earthquake, it's kind of hard to say whether or not you should cast Earthquake, and I'm not certain about how fast your guild or team or whatever sort of raid we're in is killing the ads. But what you most likely want to do, and again, this depends on how fast the ads are dying. If the ads are taking forever to die for whatever reason, then casting Earthquake is most likely going to be worth it. But definitely on the ads during the hero, because you're heroing after he comes down into phase 2. And so during hero, your other DPSers are going to be doing a lot of damage because it's hero. So casting Earthquake is going to be a little less valued, because you're probably not going to get like when you place it, it's not going to have the full duration while it's hitting ads. And you cast, so it's 217, and then oh no, that's not 217. 229 to 237. So yeah, casting, like getting full Maelstrom and then casting like 2 before they come out, or like as they're coming out, and then Stormkeepering is really good, because that pretty much ensures that they're going to be taking damage from your Earthquake the whole time that your Earthquake's down. And you just want to be careful on casting this many Earthquakes. I see you cast them on the Shadow Reflections. I probably wouldn't do that either. It's probably better to get them down faster, just to Earth Shock them, because they're going to be moving, and unless like you have a Blood DK who pulls them all together or something, like you're just going to be better off Earth Shocking most likely. And then even like, I know on the hero one they're going to die really fast, but even on the ones in phase 1, a lot of people, or most of the DPS is going to have their AoE cooldowns or have something ready to use AoE, because it's the beginning of the fight, and it's going to maybe not be worth it for you to cast Earthquake here, because you're not going to be getting the full effect. On top of that, unless like you're having a problem with killing the ads, like the ads like are taking forever to die, it's debatable as to whether you should even cast Earthquake, and just would rather just cast Earthshock for damage on Kill Jaden instead of the ads. Obviously, if you're having a problem, like people are dying to the ads, or they're just staying up way too long, then casting Earthquake to get them down is obviously the correct thing to do, but having this many earthquake casts on this fight is probably something you want to try to avoid. Not only like for your own DPS, but just to get the boss down faster so you can progress into the other phases. Healing Blasts were pretty weak on this fight too, again. I'm pretty sure this is the Shadow phase, and you should definitely be casting Elemental Blast on the ads in Shadow phase, because it gives you the buff, and if you Flame Shock them all, like you get ticks faster with haste, and they crit more. So, and you get instant cast procs a lot too, so there shouldn't really be like a lull in your casts here. But overall, like this group of casts here and this group was pretty good. They're pretty close together, and they're not like too far apart. Like you weren't waiting a while and then casting. So yeah, that's about it for the logs. I think there was a few fights where you only used one prolonged power, I think. So yeah, this one you only used one. So you just want to use your second with Ascendance on single target fights. And on AoE fights, you just want to use your second, like on a Stormkeeper, on lots of ads. And this might have been the only fight. I don't know. You only used one here, one here. So yeah, just using a second pot will give you more damage as well. And I think that's about it. I don't think. Obviously, you have the gloves, which are great. And once you get the second legendary, that'll be a huge boost as well. I'm actually really surprised you don't have one at 913, whatever eye level you are. It's pretty up there. Consider for you to not have a second legendary. So yeah, just to kind of recap, working on casting Elemental Blast on cooldown as much as possible is really important. Make sure to cast it in Ascendance when it comes up. Change your neck enchant to Mark of the Claw. Get the 4 set, which obviously is RNG, but and on that note, also I did want to mention that you should probably shoot for the chest and the what other piece? I think it's the back. Yeah, those two are probably going to be the best slots since you have the gloves and your legs are 935 with pretty good stats on them, so they're not worth replacing most likely if you can get those two pieces, obviously. So yeah, and then just be careful with the earthquake casts, especially on Kill Jaden. Single target DPS is pretty important on that fight. And yeah, that's about it. Overall, your parses are pretty good for your eye level. Like your eye level parses like 54, and then Fallen Avatar was 76. Like you obviously know what you're doing for the most part, and you're doing well. But I think just doing those few things will take your damage a bit further. Alright, I hope this helps. Alright, what do I do now?